What's your favorite scary movie?
Raw. FLIXTER. Hello, world. It's Mr. FLIXTER, and I just love talking motion pictures. Happy Halloween, y'all. It's an exciting time. It's my favorite time of the year.
Ooh, it's Mrs. Whiskers, and I just wanted to wish you a happy Halloween.
Boo! It's Elsa, darling, and I just wanted to wish you a happy Halloween too.
Elsa, shouldn't you have a cool stage name like me and Daddy do?
You can call me Madame Matinee.
I said a cool stage name.
Oh, please, darling. Yours is so derivative of Daddy's.
Why, thank you very much.
Not a compliment, darling.
So Daddy had to go on hiatus, but he's thrilled to be back doing reviews. Thanks for watching.
Enjoy, darling. And I was thinking, after doing the Scream movies and ranking those ones, what was the next major horror franchise that I was going to cover for my channel? And then all of a sudden it came to me. So today I'm going to start with the first one. And I'm going to review the Child's Play movies. This is my spoiler review. If you haven't seen it, you've been warned. So the question remains, can this pint-sized slasher compete with the major horror giants? So in honor of season 2 of the Chucky show, I'm going to review all 7 of the original Chucky films on my channel. I'm not going to review the Alpha remake though. We don't talk about the remake on this channel.
No matter what!
I'm even considering doing the TV show too. I haven't really reviewed TV shows before, but that might be interesting, so we'll see about that. As far as Child's Play goes, it's easily my second favorite franchise. Only second to Scream, of course. The reason why I love this franchise so much, mainly is because of the continuity. When it comes down to it, pound for pound, this is the most well-connected, well-told story when it comes to all the other franchises. There's a lot of plot holes and there's a lot of things wrong with these different stories, and as some of the sequels go along, a lot of them don't make sense, especially for like Friday the 13th and Nightmare on Elm Street. But with Chucky, it does a really good job of keeping things consistent, and that's mostly because of writer Don Mancini. He's written every single Child's Play film, and he's even written the TV show. That's unheard of. It starts off with a very simple premise. So the story is about how a man in the foot chase is gunned down by a cop in a toy store and then transfers his soul into a good guy doll, which is a high-demand toy based on a popular TV show at the time in this universe. And Tom Holland does several directing tricks to make this film a treat. Not this one. That one. He also directed Fright Night. For example, he uses tracking shots and first-person POV to do a lot of the movement for Chucky, to keep kind of that mystery of, is Chucky doing it? Is Andy doing it? Because this movie is interesting, and it stands out from the other ones, because this one's more of a murder mystery. You don't even see Chucky move around until the first half of the movie, which is a nice touch, I think. It's a good way to build suspense. And it really helps you be on Andy's side, too. Because he's just this innocent kid, and he's really telling the truth, but none of the adults believe him. Frustrating, eh? The scene where Chucky kills Aunt Maggie is a great example of how to build suspense. Tom Holland plays with the idea of noises and different sounds in the background, And it gets to the point where it would show something moving around, and then it would show Aunt Maggie's reaction. There's minimal music involved in this scene because it's more about what Aunt Maggie's hearing going on behind her and around this seemingly empty apartment. It also focuses on small details, like little footprints heard in the background. You see a blurry figure, but you can't really tell what it was because Andy and Chucky are wearing the same outfit. And there's even those footprints on the counter, because they're both wearing the same shoes. Eventually, every little noise makes Aunt Maggie scream in terror. That's until Chucky cleverly distracts her by moving a houseplant before he moves in for his first kill. That's when she gets bludgeoned to death with a hammer. Not just any hammer, a toy hammer. And that's one thing about this series that I like too. Especially in this first one, I like how Chucky uses toys as his weapons. This becomes a common theme throughout the films. And I like how it twists the very idea of what toys stand for: innocence and fun. So that's how sound design effectively enhances the intensity of the suspense. The real star of the show is Brad Dourif as Charles Lee Ray, aka Chucky.
Charles Lee Ray has to be the most serial killer sounding name ever.
The iconic actor lends his voice to create one of the most fearsome horror villains ever created. He just injects so much personality into the character. And it's funny, as a kid, for the longest time, I could have swore it was Danny DeVito as the character. So even though he's small in stature, he's still big in personality. He's just a small, foul-mouthed little terror. And I love it. I'm also surprised about how restrained this movie is. They don't put him right in front and center the whole time. You see what Brad Dourif looks like in person in real life in the beginning for a little bit, and then you don't even hear him until later on. So I thought that was a nice touch too. And I'm so grateful that he stuck with the roles the entire time. He's voiced Chucky in every single movie except for the remake. And I'm sorry, I don't care who you are, not even the legendary Mark Hamill can replace Brad Dourif in the role. He is Chucky. You know what I mean? If you agree, put comments down in the below and we can talk about it.
I don't believe it. I just don't believe it.
And I actually had the pleasure of meeting Brad Dourif at Niagara Falls Comic Con this year in June. So I was able to interview him. When it came to the iconic laugh that he has, he said it just came so naturally to him. He can do it so easily. And I asked him if he ever improvised his lines or if they were written. He said they were mainly written, except for that scene in the elevator. That was one of the first lines that he improvised. And from there, he just let loose.
Ugly doll.
Fuck you.
The only thing about this film is you don't really get to know Chucky that well. It's not till later on when Chucky really shines. But this works as a good origin story and a good introduction to Chucky. Although some of Chucky's one-liners can be a bit cringy at times. But hey, well, it's a different time.
I have a date with a 6-year-old boy.
Bella agrees. Chris Sarandon plays Detective Mike Norris. He was also in Fright Night and Princess Bride. And he was also the voice of Jack Skellington in Nightmare Before Christmas. Although Danny Elfman provided the singing voice. So he's the one who ends up killing Charles Lee Ray in the beginning. And essentially he's the reason why Chucky's soul got transferred into the doll. Aside from the voodoo, of course. Which is something that Don Mancini was always against, but he just kind of went with it, and then he kind of plays with it later on in the franchise, so it's fun. You have to explain it somehow, right? He plays the character with such a hard-edged attitude, but still remains likable. Because as he pieces things together, you know he needs to do the right thing. His motivation is clear because he needs to finish what he unintentionally started. And I'm sorry, but I always had a problem with that one scene when Chucky tries to kill him in the car while he's driving. He could have easily just hit the brakes or pulled the emergency brake, or he could have just stopped the car. Oh, I have so many issues with that scene. Why did they keep on driving? It seems so unnecessary and over the top, and I can't even take that scene seriously because it's just so ridiculous. But anyways, that's one of the few nitpicks I have about this film. Alex Vincent plays Andy Barkley. And I actually had the pleasure of meeting Alex Vincent at Niagara Falls Comic Con in June this year as well. And when I got to interview him, I asked him if he was ever really afraid of that Chucky doll, and he said no, he was never really scared of it because he could always tell that the whole thing was fake. I mean, he was there when they were doing the animatronics and stuff like that, so no, that was never really an issue. I just thought that was a cool little fun fact. He's the one that signed my Blu-ray. I love what he put. This is the end, friend.
Oh, please. We're friends to the end, remember?
This is the end, friend.
And Alex Vincent had to be one of the cutest childhood actors. Because everything he says, you just can't help but think he's so adorable.
I made you breakfast in bed. His real name is Charles Lee Ray.
Sure, a lot of times he might stumble over his lines, but this was his first movie, and there was a lot of pressure on him. He really wanted to do a good job, so I give him a lot of credit for all the pressure he was under.
Tell me. Hi, I'm Chucky, and I'm your friend to the end. Heidi-ho. Ha ha ha. Mommy, he's doing it on purpose. He told me never to tell about him or he'd kill me.
Fun fact, I always had a close personal connection with the Andy Barkley character because his birthday is the same as my birthday. And the movie takes place on and around that time.
And despite having that close personal connection to him, because I didn't realize that until later on in life, I think Andy had a nice story arc. He starts off being scared to death of Chucky, and eventually he faces off against him in the end. I like how when no one believes him too, he's not afraid to take matters into his own hands and settle things once and for all. Catherine Hicks plays his mom, Karen Barkley. She works at a department store and she ends up buying the Chucky doll in question from a peddler in the back alley. And I love the way that she's written. She's a strong-willed woman and she'll do anything for the love of her son. She won't let anything stop her. And when people get in her way, she takes matters into her own hands because she loves her son that much. She's a very likable, relatable character. She's very strong-willed because she's capable of doing anything when it comes to Andy. That's how much she loves him. And you don't really see that too much in horror movies. A lot of times parents just don't believe their kids or they just write them off, or parents are non-existent altogether in horror movies. So it's a nice contrast. Their relationship is the heart of the film. She displays her so confidently and so convincingly that I can't help but feel for her. And the chemistry between her and Andy is uncanny. During my interview, Alex Vincent even said that he spent a lot of time outside of filming with Catherine Hicks so that they could establish that bond. And I love the score by John Renzetti. It sets the mood perfectly for the darkly playful horror slasher that's about to unfold. It reminds me of a time when a lot of movies had theme music. You don't really see that in modern movies these days, and I miss that. They should bring back horror movie theme music instead of this generic hip-hop or generic rock that they always do instead. What's with that anyways? And to this day, I'm still mesmerized by how they made Chucky move around with all the puppetry and the animatronics. It's astounding. For the most part, I think it really holds up to this day. Sure, there's some scenes where you can tell it's just a little person in a costume, but aside from that, it is phenomenal.
Now that's pure movie magic.
One of the best examples of the effective use of the animatronics is that scene when Chucky's looking for Andy in the psychiatric ward toward the end. But then, of course, you can also tell it's a person in the costume, like during that electric shock machine kill scene. But they just make the doll's face so expressive, and all the puppeteers really do a good job of bringing this doll to life. It's more than just a voice, you know. And that scene, when Karen finds the batteries inside of the box, is so iconic. Probably the most iconic scene in the whole movie. Checking the back compartment to confirm that he has no batteries is a good way for her to come to terms with the horrific realization that this doll's actually alive. His head spinning around to ask if she wants to play. It's one of the creepiest scenes ever filmed.
Hi, I'm Chucky. Wanna play?
And then the amount of sheer fear built up after she drops the doll and he rolls underneath the couch when she goes down to retrieve him is tremendous. Another example of expert filmmaking, too, on Tom Holland's part. There's a lot of things that go into play to make this scene so great. So strong direction, clever writing choices, and phenomenal performances from the actors all make this film iconic. I really do think this little pint-sized slasher has what it takes to go up against the giants of horror. The opening scene is just such a classic villain origin story. It starts off with a simple foot chase and then ends up with the explanation of the significance of the doll. And also explains the significance of the doll to Andy. The middle of the movie is more of a whodunit. It's the mystery of it all. Is Andy crazy? Is Andy really killing these people? Or is the doll truly possessed? And it all builds up to that epic conclusion, the final showdown. That's when they trap Chucky in the fireplace, and it starts from there. And even though the scene does tend to run a bit long, they could have shortened that scene a little bit, in my opinion, because he gets his head blown off, he gets shot down, he gets blown to bits, and then he still comes through the vents, and he attacks the other cop from inside the vent like a gremlin would, and then it just takes so long for them to finally kill Chucky. But that just goes to show how hard it's going to be to defeat him, and it gives you a sense that Chucky might return in later installments. And I don't care who you are, that scene when Chucky's decapitated and he asks if you want to play when he's all burnt, it's sheer nightmare fuel.
Hi, I'm Chucky. Wanna play?
It gives Chucky a new burnt, crispy look. And I really like the creepy factor of it all. But again, this is one of those scenes where you can tell it's the person in the costume when he's leering on Andy like this with the knife up. But in my opinion, practical effects and animatronics are always better than CGI. It gives the film so much more heart and soul. And of course, when he's trapped in the fireplace, Andy says that epic line, "This is the end, friend."
Oh, please. We're friends to the end, remember?
This is the end, friend.
It's also noteworthy that producer David Kirshner produced all 7 films in the franchise too. I like how it's not just the film crew, over time they become a family, and that's really nice. You don't see that too much in filmmaking. And that's why I love this intro to one of my all-time favorite horror franchises, only second to Scream, of course. Do you like the Chucky movies too? Please leave comments down below. And make sure you subscribe and hit that like button too. So, in conclusion, even though it's not a perfect film, I can still consider this a quintessential horror classic. If you haven't seen it before, I really recommend it. Or if it's been a while since you've seen it, I recommend you watch it again. My grade for this film is an extra large popcorn. This movie is campy and it's as cheesy as it gets, and I love every second of it. I think that's one of the main reasons why I like the Chucky character. There's a lot of fun you can have with that character. If you like what you've seen and you want to see more, please like and subscribe. And hit that little bell icon too so you can get notifications for my channel. I took a bit of a hiatus, but life got in the way, so I'm back to doing reviews now, and I'm pumped.
I think what makes Chucky so creepy is that he's a doll, darling. He's not just some masked killer who's out to get you. No, no, no. Just look at that face. Being a doll just makes it so much more scary. Don't you agree, darling? I can't possibly look anymore.
I have to agree. There's just something about dolls that are super spooky. I mean, Daddy's got a real fear of dolls for a reason. No one would even suspect a thing. They would just think you're crazy if you just said the doll did it. Am I right? Don't worry, Daddy. Me and Elsa will protect you.
No, I don't do dolls. Bye.
So, until next time, happy Halloween!
And remember, you just can't keep a good guy down.
If you haven't heard, I'm a film critic on HorrorBuzz.com, and I make frequent appearances on HorrorBuzz Live, their YouTube channel. I'll make sure to put links below for that.
Well, next time, I'm Mr. FLIXTER, and I just love motion pictures. Have a good day.
Mr. FLIXTER.